Let's see some examples regarding limit calculations. First one is limit of x cubed when x approaches 2. So that's going to be very simple. It's going to be 2 to the power of 3, and 2 to the power of 3 is 8. Next one, limit of x cubed plus 5x plus 7 when x approaches 2. In this case, it's going to go toward 2 cubed plus 5 times 2 plus 7. That's going to be 8 plus 10 plus 7, which is going to be 25. Next one, limit of square root of x cubed plus 5x plus 7 when x approaches 2. That's going to be 2 cubed plus 5 times 2 plus 7. It is going to be 8 plus 10 plus 7, which is going to be square root of 25. And that's going to be equal to 5. Next example, t plus 6 divided by 2t to the power 4 when t approaches negative 1. So it's going to be negative 1 plus 6 divided by 2 times negative 1 to the power 4. That's going to be 5 over 2 times 1, which is 5 over 2. Or we can say it's 2.5. Next example. Limit of t to the power of negative 1 over 4 times t plus 5 to the power of 1 over 3 when t approaches 3. That's going to be 3 to the power of negative 1 over 4, then 3 plus 5, 1 over 3. That's going to be, this part is going to be 8 to the power of 1/3, which is going to be cube root of 8, and that's going to be 2. So it is going to be 3 to the power of negative 1 over 4 times 2, or you can say 2 divided by 4 root of 3. Next one, limit of x cubed plus 4x squared minus 3 when x approaches c. It is going to be c cubed plus 4c squared minus 3. Next one, x to the power 4 plus x squared minus 1 over x cubed plus 5 when x approaches c. That's going to be c to the power 4 plus c to the power of 2 minus 1 divided by c squared plus 5. Let's see some other examples. Limit of x when x approaches 9 definitely is going to be 9. Limit of 14 when x approaches negative 3. Since this number is not changing, it is going to remain as 14. Limit of x to the power 4 when x approaches 1 over 2. It is going to be 1 over 2 to the power of 4, which will be 1 over 2 to the power of 4. That's going to be 1 over 16. Limit of z to the power of 2/3 when z is approaching 27 will be 27 to the power of 2 divided by 3, which is going to be 27 squared cube root of 27 squared. 27 is already 3 cubed. The power of 2 is going to be 3 to the power of 6. Cube root of 3 to the power of 6 is going to be 3 to the power of 2, which is going to be 9. Next one. Limit of t to the power of negative 1 when t approaches 2. That's going to be 2 to the power of negative 1 or 1 over 2. Limit of x to the power of negative 2 when x approaches 5. That's going to be 5 to the power of negative 2 or 1 over 5 squared or 1 over 25. Or you can say 0.04 if you want to write it in terms of decimals. Next one, limit of 3x plus 4 when x approaches 0.2. It is going to be 3 times 0.2 plus 4, 0.6 plus 4, which is 4.6. Next example, 3 x cubed plus 2x squared when x approaches 1/3. It is going to be 3 1/3 to the power of 3 plus 2 times 1/3 to the power of 2. It is going to be 3 times 1 over 27 plus 2 times 1 over 9. That's going to be 3 over 27 plus 2 over 9. If you reduce this one, it's going to be 1 over 9 plus 2 over 9. That's going to be 3 over 9. And when you reduce it, it's going to be 1 over 3. Next one, limit of 3x to the power of 4 minus 2x cubed plus 4x when x approaches negative 1. This 3 times negative 1 to the power of 4 minus 2 times negative 1 to the power of 3 plus 4 times negative 1. That's going to be 3. This one is going to be negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 2 is going to be positive 2 minus 4. That's going to be 5 minus 4, which is 1. Next one, 3x to the power of 2/3, 8 to the power of 2/3 minus 16x to the power of negative 1. So that's going to be, we know cube root of 8 is 2. So cube root of 8 to the power of 2 is going to be 2 to the power of 2 or 4. So this part is going to be 4. So 3 times 4 minus 16 over 8, which is going to be 2. So that's going to be 12 minus 2, and you end up having 10. Next one, limit of x plus 1 times 3x squared minus 9. X plus 1 is 3. 3x squared, 3 times 4, 12 minus 9, 3. 3 times 3 is going to be 9. Next example. 4x plus 1 times 4x is 6x minus 1 when x approaches half. It is going to be 4 times 1/2 plus 1 times 6 times 1/2 minus 1. Which is 2 plus 1, 3. 3 minus 1, 2. Because 6 times half is 3. 3 minus 1 is 2. So 3 times 2, 6. Next one, limit of 3t minus 14 divided by t plus 1. That's going to be 3 times 4 minus 14 divided by 4 plus 1. 12 minus 14 is negative 2 divided by 5. Or you can put it as negative 0.4. Next example, limit of square root of z divided by z minus 2 when z approaches 9. It's going to be square root of 9 divided by 9 minus 2. Square root of 9 is 3. 9 minus 2 is 7. Next one. Limit of 16y plus 1 times 2y to the power of 1 over 2 plus 1. That's going to be 16, 1 over 4 plus 1 times 2 square root of 1 over 4 plus 1. 16 over 4 is 4 plus 1 is 5. Square root of 1 over 4 is going to be half. 2 times half, 1. 1 plus 1, 2. So 5 times 2 is going to be 10. Next one. Limit x times x plus 1 times x plus 2 when x approaches 2. It's going to be 2 times 2 plus 1 times 2 plus 2. That's 2 times 3 times 4, which is going to be 24. Next one, limit of 1 over square root of 6y plus 1 when y approaches 4. It's going to be 1 over 6 times 4 plus 1. That's going to be 1 over square root of 25, which will be 1 over 5. Next one, limit of square root of w plus 2 plus 1 divided by square root of w minus 3 minus 1. So that's going to be 7 plus 2 plus 1 divided by 7 minus 3 plus minus 1. That's going to be 9. Square root of 9 is 3. 3 plus 1, 4. 7 minus 3 is 4. Square root of 4 is 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. So 4 over 1 is going to be 4. Next one. Limit of x over x cubed plus 4x. It's going to be negative 1 divided by negative 1 to the power of 3 plus 4 times negative 1. So we have negative 1. Negative 1 to the power of 3 is negative 1. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. So it's going to be negative 1 over negative 5, which will be 1 over 5. Next one. Limit of t squared plus 1 divided by t cubed plus 2 times t to the power of 4 plus 1 when t approaches negative 1. So it's going to be negative 1 to the power of 2 plus 1 divided by negative 1 to the power of 3 plus 2 times negative 1 to the power of 4 plus 1. It's going to be 1 plus 1, 2, negative 1 plus 2, positive 1. And this part is negative 1 to the power of 4 is going to be positive 1, plus 1 is going to be 2. So 2 divided by 2 is going to be 1. Next example. 3 roots t minus 1 over 5t divided by t minus 20 to the power of 2. That's going to be when t approaches 25, square root of 25 minus 1 over 5, 25, 25 minus 20 to the power of 2. Square root of 25 is 5, 3 times 5, 15, 25 divided by 5 is 5. 25 minus 5 is 5 to the power of 2, 25. So 15 minus 5, 10, divided by 25, that's going to be 2 divided by 5 if you want to leave it in fraction. If you want to write in decimals, it's going to be 0.4. Limit of 18y squared minus 4 to the power of 4 when y approaches 1 over 3 is 18. 1 over 3 to the power of 2 minus 4 to the power of 4, which is going to be 18 times 1 over 3 to the power of 2 is going to be 1 over 9. 18 divided by 9 is 2. 2 minus 4 to the power of 4. 2 minus 4 is negative 2. Negative 2 to the power of 4, because it's even number, is going to be positive 16. Next one. Limit of 4t squared plus 8t minus 5 to the power of 3 over 2 when t approaches 3 over 2. It's going to be 4 times 3 over 2 to the power of 2 plus 8 times 3 over 2 minus 5 to the power of 3 over 2. So 3 over 2 is going to be 9 over 4. With this 4 cancel out, it's going to be just 9. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 times 3, 12 minus 5 to the power of 3 over 2. 9 plus 12 is 21. 21 minus 5 is 16. It's going to be 16 to the power of 3, square root of 16 to the power of 3. 16 by itself is 4 to the power of 2. So it's going to be 4 to the power of 2 to the power of 3 is going to be 4 to the power of 6. Square root of 4 to the power of 6 is going to be 4 to the power of 2. 4 to the power of 3 is 4 times 4 times 4, which is 64. Next example. T plus 2 to the power of 1/2 divided by t plus 1 to the power of 2/3 when t approaches 7. So it's going to be 7 plus 2 to the power of 1 over 2. 7 plus 1 to the power of 2 over 2. So that's 9. It's going to be square root of 9. To the power of 1 over 2 is the same as square root. And here we have 8 to the power of 2 over 3 is going to be cube root of 8 to the power of 2. Square root of 9 is 3. 8 is 2 to the power of 3. To the power of 2 is going to be 2 to the power of 6. So cube root of 2 to the power of 6 is going to be 2 to the power of 2, which is 4. So 3 over 4. Next example. Limit of square root of 4x squared minus 3 when x approach negative 2. So it is going to be 4 to the power times negative 2 to the power of 2 minus 3. So that's going to be 4. 4 times 4, 16 minus 3. It's going to be square root of 13. Next example. Limit of x squared minus 13 when x approaches negative 3. It's going to be negative 3 to the power of 2 minus 13. That's 9 minus 13, which is going to be negative 4. Next one, negative x squared plus 5x minus 2. When x approaches 2, is going to be negative 2 squared plus 5 times 2 minus 2. It is going to be negative 4 plus 10 minus 2. That's going to be 4. Next one, limit of 8 times t minus 5 times t minus 7 when t approaches 6. So it's going to be 8 times 6 minus 5, 6 minus 7. 8 times 6 minus 5 is 1, 6 minus 7 is negative 1. So 8 times 1 times negative 1 is going to be negative 8. Next example. Limit of x cubed minus 2x squared plus 4x plus 8 when x approaches negative 2. Negative 2 to the power of 3 minus 2 times negative 2 to the power of 2 plus 4 times negative 2 plus 8. So it is going to be negative 8 minus 8 minus 8 plus 8. So that's going to be, these two cancel out. It's going to be negative 16. Limit of 2x plus 5 divided by 11 minus x cubed when x approaches 2. 2 times 2 plus 5 divided by 11 minus 2 to the power of 2. 4 plus 5, 9. 11 minus 8 is 3. 9 divided by 3 is just 3. Limit of 8 minus 3s times 2s minus 1 when s approaches 2 over 3. It's going to be 8 minus 3 times 2 over 3. 2 times s, 2 over 3 minus 1. These cancel out. 8 minus 2 becomes 6. And here it's going to be 4 over 3 minus 1, which is going to be 4. 6 times 4 over 3 minus 3 over 3, which will be 4 times 1 over 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Limit of 4x times 3x plus 4 to the power of 2. It's going to be 4 times negative 1 over 2 times 3 times negative 1 over 2 plus 4 to the power of 2. This 4 times negative half is negative 2. 3 times negative half is negative 1.5. 4 minus 1.5 is going to be 2.5 to the power of 2. Which will be, you can write in terms of fraction as well. That's going to be negative 2 times 25 over 4, which will be negative 25 over 2. Limit of y plus 2 divided by y squared plus 5y plus 6. It's going to be 2 plus 2, 4, divided by 2 squared plus 5 times 2 plus 6, which is going to be 4 divided by 4 plus 10 plus 6. That's going to be 4 over 20, or 2 divided by 10, or 1 divided by 5. If you want to write in decimal, it's going to be 0.2. Next one, limit of 5 minus y to the power of 4 over 3. It is going to, when y approaches negative 3, it's going to be 5 minus negative 3, which is going to be 8 to the power of 4 over 3. 8 is 2 to the power of 3 to the power of 4 over 3. It's going to be 2 to the power of 3 times 4 over 3. 3 and 3 cancel out. It's going to be 2 to the power of 4 equals to 16. Next one. Limit of square root of z squared minus 10 when z approaches 4. So 4 squared minus 10. It's going to be 16 minus 10. It's going to be square root of 6. Next one. 3 over h approaches 0. So it's going to be square root of 3 times 0 is 0. Plus 1 is 1. Plus 1 is going to be 3 over 1 plus 1 or 3 over 2. Next one. Square root of 5h plus 4 minus 2 divided by h. It's going to be, so here, it's going to be, when you sub 0, it's going to be 2 minus 2, 0, divided by 0. What should we do? Here, we need to multiply it by the conjugate. We're going to have 5h plus 4 minus 4 over h times the conjugate of the numerator, 5h plus 4 plus 2, divided by, I multiply the numerator and denominator by the conjugate. Then, using the difference of squares, the first one is going to be 5h plus 4 minus 2 squared, which is going to be 4, divided by h times 5h plus 4 plus 2. Now when h approaches, now first of all let's simplify it. 4 minus 4 is 0. H and h cancel out. So we have limit of 5 over square root of 5h plus 4 plus 2 when h approaches 0. It's going to be 5 divided by 5 times 0, 0, 0 plus 4 is going to be 4. Square root of 4 is 2, 2 plus 2, 4. So the final answer is 5 over 4. Next example. X squared minus 3x plus 1 when x approaches 0. It's going to be 0 squared minus 3 times 0 plus 1. It's going to be just 1. Here, square root of, cube root of 2x plus 1 is going to be 2 times 2 plus 1. That's going to be cube root of 5. Next one. Limit of tan x squared when x approaches 0. It's going to be tan of 0 squared, which is going to be tan of 0, which is going to be 0. Next one. Limit of x minus 5 divided by x squared plus 4. It's going to be 2 minus 5 divided by 2 squared plus 4. It's going to be negative 3 divided by 8. Next one. X squared minus x minus 6 divided by x minus 2. So when you sub it there, it's going to be 3 squared minus 3 minus 6. 3 minus 3. As you see here, it's going to be 0 over 0. So we must basically factor the numerator. When you factor it, you're looking for two numbers. Multiply 2 negative 6 and add 2 negative 1, which will be x times negative 3 times x plus 2 divided by x minus 3 limit and x approaches 3. Then you cancel x minus 3 from the numerator and denominator, and then it reduces to x plus 2 when x approaches 3. 3 plus 2 is going to be 5. Then next one, limit of x squared plus x minus 2 divided by x squared minus 3x plus 2 when x approaches 1. So it's going to be 1 squared plus 1 minus 2 divided by 1 squared minus 3 times 1 plus 2. It's going to be 2 minus 2, 0. This one is 1 minus 3 plus 2 is going to be 0 as well. So what should we do? Let's factor it. Factor both numerator and denominator. Numerator, we need to look for two numbers. Multiply 2 negative 2 and add 2 positive 1. So it's going to be x plus 2 times x minus 1. For denominator, we are looking for two numbers. Multiply 2 positive 2 and add 2 negative 3. I think it's going to be negative 2 and negative 1. So it's going to be x minus 2, x minus 1. So x minus 1 and x minus 1 cancel out. And then it's going to be limit of x plus 2 over x minus 2. It's going to be 2 plus 1 divided by 1 minus 2. 3 divided by negative 1, which is going to be negative 3. Next example. X squared minus x minus 2 divided by x squared minus 4 when x approaches 2. It's going to be 2 squared minus 2 divided by 2 squared minus 4. That's going to be 4 minus 2 minus 2, 0. Let's factor it. For the numerator, x squared minus x minus 2, we are looking for two numbers multiplied to negative 2 and add to negative 1. It is going to be x minus 2 times x plus 1 divided by, this one is x squared minus 4, which is the same as x squared minus 2 squared. That's difference of squares. So it's going to be x minus 2 times x plus 2. That's how we factor the difference of square. Now what you see here, this term and this term from numerator and denominator are the same. So it is going to reduce to limit of x plus 1 divided by x plus 2 when x approaches to 2. So it's going to be 2 plus 1, 3 divided by 4. 3 over 4 is going to be the answer to this limit. Next one. X cubed minus 1 divided by x squared plus 2x plus minus 3, which is going to be 1 minus 1, 0. 1 plus 2 minus 3 is going to be 0 as well. Again, we need to factor it. X cubed minus 1 is divisible by x minus 1. So if I divide it, x cubed divided by x is going to be x squared times x cubed, x squared times negative x is going to be x squared. Then you find the difference, then is x squared minus 1. When you divide it, x squared divided by x is x times x squared, x times negative x. Then x minus 1, you have plus 1. So the factor of the numerator is going to be x minus 1 times x squared plus x plus 1. Denominator, we have quadratic. We are looking for two numbers multiplied to negative 3 and add to positive 2. That's going to be positive 3 and negative 1. These two cancel out. 1 squared plus 1 plus 1 divided by 1 plus 3. That's going to be 3 over 4. That's going to be the answer to this question. Next one. Limit of sine x over tan x when x approaches 0. Sine x when x approaches 0 is 0. Tan x when x approaches 0 is going to be 0. But we know we have sine x. Tan is sine x over cosine x. These two cancel out. It's going to be reduced to just cosine x. Limit of cosine x when x approaches 0 is going to be equal to 1. Next one, limit of tan x over x when x approaches 0. Tan 0 divided by 0 is going to be 0 over 0. We know limit of sine x over x when x approaches 0 is 1. So we can say limit of sine x, instead of tan, I'm going to write sine over cosine over x. That's going to make it 1 over cosine times sine x over x. This part is 1. This part is 1 over cosine 0, which is going to be 1 as well. So 1 times 1 is 1. So tan x over x when x approaches 0 is 1. Next one. X times cosine negative 2x plus 1 is going to be 0 times cosine 1 divided by 0 plus 0. This definitely is going to be 0 over 0, which is not defined. So what we can do, we can factor the denominator. x times x plus 1. So these two cancel out. Limit. So it's going to be cosine. Negative 2 times 0 is 0 plus 1 is 1. Divided by 0 plus 1 is going to be 1. It's going to be cosine 1. Next one, limit of x squared times cosecant squared x. Cosecant is 1 over sine. So it's going to be x squared over sine squared x. When x approaches 0, it is going to be limit of x over sine x to the power of 2 when x approaches 0. We know sine x, as we had it here, sine x over x when x approaches 0 is 1. So that's true for the inverse of it, which is x over sine x. So 1 to the power of 2 is going to be still 1. So the answer is 1. Next one. When you sub it there, 0 plus 4, square root of 4 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. Divided by 0. So we need to do some adjustments. I'm gonna multiply it by the conjugate. So it is gonna be, we multiply numerator and denominator both by square root of x plus 4 divided by x square root of x plus 4 plus 2. Then you have difference of squares. This to the power of 2 minus 2 to the power of 2, which is going to be x plus 4 minus 2 to the power of 2, which is 4, divided by x times square root of x plus 4 plus 2. Limit when x approaches 2. 4 and negative 4 cancel out. X divided by x cancel out. You have limit 1 over square root of x plus 4 plus 2 when x approaches 0. That's going to be 1 over square root of 4 plus 2. It's going to be 1 over 2 plus 2, which is going to be 1 over 4. Next one. Limit of 2x divided by 3 minus square root of x plus 9. 2 times 0 is 0. 3 minus 0 plus 9 is 9. Square root of 9 is 3, so 3 minus 3 is 0. So what we need to do, we need to multiply it by the conjugate of denominator this time. So we multiply the numerator and denominator both by the conjugate of the denominator. 3 plus square root of x plus 9 divided by 3 plus square root of x plus 9. So when you do it, it's going to be 2x times 3 plus square root of x plus 9 divided by difference of squares. 3 to the power of 2, 9, minus square root of x plus 9 to the power of 2. The power of 2 and the square root cancel out. So it's going to be x plus 9. Then 9 and negative 9 and 9 cancel out. We have negative x only. This x and x cancel out. So we're going to have limit of negative 2 times 3 plus square root of x plus 9 when x approaches 0. So that's going to be negative 2 times 3 plus square root of 9. That's going to be negative 2 times 3 plus 3, which is 6. Negative 2 times 6 is going to be negative 12. Next one. We have x minus 1 divided by square root of x minus 1 when x approaches 1. It is going to be 0 over 0. So let's do it. Let's multiply it by the conjugate of the denominator, which is square root of x plus 1 divided by square root of plus 1. X minus 1 times square root of x plus 1 divided by x minus 1. These two cancel out. So we have limit of square root of x plus 1 when x approaches 1. That's going to be square root of 1 plus 1, which is going to be 2. Next example. So we have x to the power of 3, negative 1 to the power of 3, plus 4 times negative 1 to the power of 2 minus 3 divided by negative 1 to the power of 2 plus 5. That's negative 1 plus 4 minus 3 divided by 1 plus 5, which is 6. That's 0 divided by 6, which is going to be 0. Here we have x cubed minus 64 divided by x minus 4. 4 to the power of 3 is 64, so it's going to be 0 divided by 0. What I'm going to do, I know that's going to be the form of a to the power of 3 minus b to the power of 3. Let's have a long division. X cubed minus 64 divided by x minus 4. X cubed divided by x is x squared. X squared times x, x cubed. X squared times negative 4, negative 4x squared. When you subtract it, these two cancel out, and you're going to end up having 4x squared minus 64. 4x squared divided by x is going to be 4x. 4x times x, 4x squared. 4x times negative x, negative 16x. When you subtract it, these two cancel out, and I'm going to end up having 16x minus 64. 16x divided by x, 16. So 16 times x, 16x. 16 times negative 4, negative 64. It's going to be 0. So, instead of x cubed minus 64, I can write x cubed minus 64 divided by x minus 4. I can write x squared plus 4x plus 16 divided by 1 when x approaches 4. So it's going to be 4 squared plus 4 times 4 plus 16. That's going to be 16 plus 16 plus 16, which is 48. Next one. We have 1 over x minus 1 minus 2 over x squared minus 1 when x approaches 1. It's going to be 1 over 0 minus 2 over 0. That's going to be undefined. Let's see if we can do something else. So limit is 1 over x minus 1 minus x squared minus 1 is the same as x minus 1 times x plus 1. We need to have the common denominator. So we have x minus 1 plus x times x plus 1. We have x plus 1 minus 2 when x approaches 1. So limit of 1 minus 2 is going to be minus 1. So x minus 1 divided by x minus 1 divided by x plus 1. Now as you see, x minus 1 and x minus 1 cancel out. And I'm going to have limit of 1 over x plus 1 when x approaches 1. So it's going to be 1 over 1 plus 1, which is 1 over 2. Next example, you have absolute function. Let's say limit of x when approaches 0 plus, which is going to be 2 over x minus 2 over x. In that case, 2 over x minus 2 over x is going to be 0. If x approaches 0 minus, that's going to be 2 over x minus 2 over negative x, which will be 2 over x plus 2 over x, which will be 4 over x when x approaches 0 minus. So as you see here, that's going to go toward negative infinity. So limit does not exist in this example. Next one, limit of 1 minus x cosine squared x divided by 1 minus cosine x when x approaches 0. We know 1 minus cosine to the power of 2 is 0 divided by 1 minus cosine 0 is going to be 1 minus 1 divided by 1 minus 1 is going to be 0 over 0. That's going to be undefined. But here I can factor the numerator is going to be 1 minus cosine x times 1 plus cosine x divided by 1 minus cosine x. Limit when x approaches 0. These two cancel out, and it's going to be limit of 1 plus cosine x when x approaches 0. It's going to be 1 plus cosine 0, which is going to be 1. 1 plus 1 is going to be 2. Now here, limit of sine absolute function of x over x. So we have two cases. When x is going towards 0 plus, that's going to be sine x over x. We know it from before, that's going to be 1. On the other hand, we have x approaches 0 minus, which in this case is going to be sine negative x. Sine negative x is the same as negative sine x. So in that case, it's going to be negative sine x over x, which is going to be negative 1. So as you see here, in two sides of zeros, we have two different numbers. So we can say limit does not exist. Now here it says we need to find it using cancelling the common factor. Because when you put 1 in here, it's going to be 0 over 0. Let's factor it. We need to look for two numbers, multiply to negative 2 and add to positive 1. So it's going to be x plus 2 times x minus 1. Denominator is going to be x times x minus 1. Limit when x approaches 1. X minus 1 and x minus 1 cancel out. We have 1 plus 2, 3, divided by 1, it's going to be 3. Next example, square root of x squared plus 10 plus 100 minus 10 divided by x squared. It's going to be 0 over 0. Let's see what we can do. What we can do, we can multiply it by the conjugate of the numerator. So it's going to be x squared plus 100 minus 100 times x squared plus 100 plus 100 plus, these are 10, plus 10 divided by x squared times square root of x squared plus 100 plus 10. Now we have difference of squares. A minus b times a plus b is going to be a squared minus b squared. So it is going to be x squared plus 100 to the power of 2 minus 10 to the power of 2 divided by x squared times square root of x squared plus 100 plus 10. 2 and square root cancel out. Is going to be x squared plus 100 minus 100 divided by x squared times square root of x squared plus 100 plus 10. These two cancel out. X squared and x squared cancel out. We're going to end up having limit of 1 over square root of x squared plus 100 plus 10 when x approaches 0. It's going to be 1 over square root of 100 plus 10. Square root of 100 is 10. So 1 over 10 plus 10, 1 over 20 or 5% or 0.05. Next example, limit of x minus 5 over x squared minus 25. It's going to be 0 over 0, but we can factor it. X minus 5. Here, x squared minus 5 squared is going to be x minus 5 times x plus 5. These two cancel out, and we're going to have limit of 1 over x plus 5 when x approaches 5. It's going to be 1 over 10. Next one, x plus 3 divided by x squared plus 4x plus 3. It's going to be 0 over 0, but we can factor it, obviously. We're looking for two numbers multiplied to 3 and add to 4, which will be x plus 3 times x plus 1. Limit when x approaches negative 3. These two cancel out, and we have limit 1 over x plus 1 when x approaches negative 3. It's going to be 1 over negative 3 plus 1, which will be negative 1 over 2. Next example. X squared plus 3x minus 10 divided by x plus 5. Let's see, negative 5 to the power of 2, 25. 3 times negative x, negative 12, negative 15, and negative 10 over 0. So it's going to be 0 over 0. Let's factor the numerator. Multiply to negative 10, add to 3. It's going to be x plus 5 times x minus 2 divided by x plus 5. Limit when x approaches negative 5. These two cancel out, and we have limit of x minus 2 when x approaches negative 5. It's going to be negative 5 minus 2 is going to be negative 7. Next one, x squared minus 7x plus 10 divided by x minus 2. That's going to be 4 minus 14 plus 10 divided by 2 minus 2. That's going to be 0 over 0, which is undefined. We need to factor the numerator. We are looking for two numbers multiplied to 10 and add to negative 7. So it's going to be x minus 5 times x minus 2 divided by x minus 2. X minus 2 and x minus 2 cancel out. And we have limit of x minus 5 when x approaches 2. It's going to be 2 minus 5. It's going to be negative 3. Next example. Limit of t squared plus t minus 2 divided by t squared minus 1 when t approaches 1. So that's going to be 1 plus 1 minus 2, 0 divided by 0. Let's factor it. Numerator, we need to have two numbers multiplied to negative 2 and add to plus 1. It's going to be t plus 2 times t minus 1 divided by t minus 1 times t plus 1. Limits when t approaches 1. This and this cancel out. T plus 2, 3 over 2. So that's 3 over 2. Next one, again, let's factor it. Multiply to 2, add to 3. It's going to be t plus 2 times t plus 1 divided by t minus 2 times t plus 1. That's the limit when t approaches negative 1. These two cancel out. T plus 2 is going to be plus 1. Negative 1 and negative 2 is going to be negative 3. So it's going to be negative 1 over 3. Next one. Again, negative 2x minus 4 divided by x cubed plus 2x squared. When you sub it there, it's going to be 0 and 0. So what should we do? We need to factor it. I'm going to factor negative 2 from the numerator. It's going to be x plus 2. I'm going to factor x squared. It's going to be x plus 2. These two cancel out. We have limit of negative 2 over x squared when x approaches negative 2. So it's going to be negative 2 divided by negative 2 squared. It's going to be negative 2 divided by 4. When you reduce it, it's going to be negative 1 over 2. Then limit of 5y cubed plus 8y squared divided by 3y to the power 4 minus 16y squared. What we need to do, we need to factor y squared here. 5y plus 8 divided by, again, when you factor y squared, is going to be 3y squared minus 16. Limits when y approaches 0. These two cancel out, and we have 5 times 0, 0 plus 8 is 8 divided by negative 16. So it's going to be negative 1 over 2. This example, we have 1 over x minus 1 divided by x minus 1. What we can do, we can multiply the numerator and denominator by x. So it's going to be 1 minus x. And here we have x squared minus x. That's going to give me still 0 divided by 0. So what else we can do? We can say I can factor x from the denominator. So 1 over x minus 1 divided by x 1 minus 1 over x. Limit when x approaches 1. So these two cancel out and we're going to end up having negative 1. So we have limit of negative 1 over x when x approaches 1. That's going to be negative 1. Next example, it's going to be When you sub it there, it's going to be negative 1 plus 1, 0. 0 divided by 0. It's undefined. So let's have the numerator, common denominator, x plus 1 plus x minus 1 divided by x. Then you simplify it, it's going to be 2x over x minus 1 times x plus 1 divided by x. When you cancel that, it's going to be limit of 2 over x minus 1 times x plus 1 when x approaches 0. So it's going to be 2 over negative 1 times plus 1. It's going to be 2 over negative 1. It's negative 2.